Welcome, I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, House Committee on Appropriations summons Finance Minister for failing to appear or submit written memoranda during the public hearing on procurement abuses. The last is yet to be heard of the $5.8 million forfeiture case involving former First Lady Patience Jonathan, as the court schedules hearing for next Monday. Broadcast media chiefs rub minds with National Broadcasting Commission on review of the NBC Code. And about 150 countries battle malicious cyber attack sweeping through Europe and Asia.
On business news tonight, Nigerians to feel the impact of the 2017 budget as federal government promises smooth transition from current to new appropriation bill.
While on sports news, the International Olympic Committee's Evaluation Commission impressed with Paris's 2024 bid presentation as the race to host a multi-sport event heats up.
And from Abuja, federal government seeks new partnership with Israel on capacity building in science, technology and agriculture.
The House of Representatives Committee on Public Procurement has ordered the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, to appear before it on Tuesday, May the 16th, over allegations of abuse and breach of the Procurement Act 2007. The summons followed a resolution taken at the commencement of an investigative hearing into allegations of abuse, breach and violation of the Public Procurement Act in the engagement of contractors for the pre-shipment inspection and monitoring of crude oil and gas export from Nigeria.
This is a hearing room in the House of Representatives where the Committee on Public Procurement is holding an investigative hearing on allegations of the breach of the Public Procurement Act in the engagement of contractors for pre-shipment, inspection and monitoring of crude oil and gas exports from Nigeria. This hearing is as a result of a motion raised by a federal lawmaker at plenary, Representative Babatunde Kolawole, who reminded the lower chamber that in June 2015, the President had mandated the Finance Ministry to process engagement of pre-shipment inspectors through selective tendering approved by the Bureau for Public Procurement. However, the lawmaker said in December 2015, after the selection of 65 companies to participate in the bidding stage, the Minister of Finance ordered the immediate cancellation of a tendering process on the grounds of lack of transparency, accountability, and on the basis of a formal complaint from the BPP. The lawmaker asked the House to investigate allegations of abuses in the fresh tendering process. But the investigative hearing got off to a shaky start as the Finance Minister failed to appear.
I received this invitation to be here on behalf of the Minister only on Friday after close of work around 7 o'clock. I am here out of respect for this Honorable House, but I do not have any memorandum to present because there was no time to do so.
This committee also wrote your ministry precisely a month ago to submit memoranda to respond to the issues, and you are telling us that you have no memoranda to submit to this honorable committee?
The annoying thing, Mr. Speaker, is that the Minister of Finance that ought to be here. We are talking about exposing corruption and following the tenet of the law.
Committee members then adopted some resolutions.
My second application is that the Minister and the PAMSEC be summoned to appear before the committee tomorrow. Within 24 hours. Minister of Finance, to be specific.
The chairman of the committee, Representative Wole Oke, assures that the committee will be thorough in its investigation with the intention of cleaning up the system. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has rearranged former Aviation Minister Femi Fani-Kayode and the former Finance Minister Nnadi Usman before a federal high court sitting in Lagos. The two former ministers were arraigned before Justice Rilwan Aikawa alongside Danjuma Yusuf and a company, Joint Trust Dimension Nigeria Limited, on a 17-count charge of money laundering and alleged diversion of 4.9 billion naira. They all pleaded not guilty after the charges were read to them. However, attempts by the defendants to have their matter transferred from Lagos to Abuja, where the offence was allegedly committed, will preoccupy the court at its next sitting. Our Judiciary correspondent Shola Shoyeli reports.
Following the decision of Justice Muslim Hassan of the Federal High Court Lagos to hands off the case of former Aviation Minister Femi Fani-Kayode after allegations of bias, the Chief Judge, Justice Ibrahim Alta, reassigned the matter to a new judge, Justice Rilwan Aikawa, also of the same court. When the matter came up de novo for the first time, the defense team informed the judge that they had pending applications challenging the court's jurisdiction. These applications had been filed before the previous judge, seeking a transfer of the case to Abuja, and so the defendants urged the court to hear the applications before taking their pleas. The EFCC counsel objected, insisting that the former trial judge had ruled on all applications, and this was the basis for the transfer of the matter to a new judge.
The issue is that they have applications which have been moved and ruled upon. That same application have been decided, they cannot bring it before the same court, except if they are filing another one, and they've not done so.
What his lordship said was that he was not even convinced that he was biased, as not to be able to take the matter, but because in the interest of justice, so as to obviate the appearance of possibility of bias, he will recuse himself, that is, he will not decide the case at all. So the court did not pronounce on our application. And since it's a jurisdictional point, which can be taken at any time, then it's still open for argument here, because the motion remains in the file. It has not been decided one way or the other. It's not struck out.
In a ruling on the issue, Justice Aikawa ordered the defendants to take their plea and fixed the next adjourned date to hear submissions on the issue of the court's jurisdiction. In another case, another judge of the court, Justice Mohammed Idris, fixed May 24 to decide whether or not to hands off the case of one Christian Nwosu, an official of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, who is charged with receiving the sum of 13 million naira from a former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Deizani Alison Madueke. He and two others allegedly received various sums of monies as bribes for the purpose of compromising the outcome of the 2015 general elections. Mr. Nwosu had earlier admitted collecting the money in a plea bargain arrangement with the EFCC, but backed out after the judge rejected the terms of the agreement.
Section 270, subsection 15 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is clear and it's unambiguous. It says where the defendant, decide to opt out from the plea bargain agreement, the proper order is for the judge to, transfer the case to another judge so that the trial, will continue de novo before that judge. We don't want to keep quiet on this and allow the defense to raise it later on, maybe after this court had finished with the entire proceedings.
The defendant has, however, rejected the request for the transfer. His lawyer says the purported plea bargain agreement was not done in compliance with the law, and so nothing stops Justice Idris from hearing the case.
My understanding of the ruling of his lordship was that the plea bargaining agreement was not in conformity with certain provisions of the ACJA, as it were. So the question is, our submission is to the effect that there was stricto sensu no enforceable plea bargaining agreement. And if there was no enforceable plea bargaining agreement, can you really withdraw from that, as it were?
Irrespective of how Justice Idris rules, the parties say they are ready for trial. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
In other legal matters, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has adjourned to May the 22nd a suit seeking the final forfeiture to the federal government, the sum of $5.8 million belonging to Mrs. Patience Jonathan, wife of former President Jonathan. The trial judge, Justice Mojisola Olatoregun, adjourned the case after arguments by counsel to Jonathan, Mr. Ifedayo Adedipe, that his client was not given sufficient notice to file a response to the suit. The court had issued an interim order on April the 26th for the forfeiture of the money. And the Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos has affirmed the 2012 verdict of a Federal High Court, Lagos, ordering the Central Bank of Nigeria to disclose the total value of cash and assets recovered from former Managing Director of the defunct Oceanic Bank of Nigeria, Mrs. Cecilia Ibro. And moving away from legal matters now, as the National Broadcasting Commission, that's the NBC, sets up a platform for a review of its code, the Director General, Mr. Modibo Kawu, is promising to make the review one that will be broad enough to accommodate all shades of opinion. This assurance came while addressing participants at a 4-day code review retreat in Kano. In his submission, the chairman of the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria and chairman Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, asked the NBC to review the section of the code that deals with the payment of annual levy and turnover made by the broadcast stations in the country. The code was reviewed about 4 years ago.
Right inside this hall are veteran broadcasters, media owners, heads of media organizations, the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC. They're here to look at the challenges facing the industry and the way forward. To set the tone for the conference, the Director General of the NBC says the time has come to review the Broadcasting Code.
The Nigeria Broadcasting Code is the most important guiding document for our professional engagement in Nigerian broadcasting. It is a platform which helps us all navigate our ways through all that we do in our profession. What is different this year is that we have broadened the base of the code review process by not only bringing the veterans of our industry and our licensees, we have also ensured that we invited members of civil society organizations, especially those who have devoted significant labor to issues that concern the media in general and broadcasting in particular.
I would also like to... Chairman of the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria and CEO Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, proposes that the current guidelines be given clarity, especially in areas of annual income, Grade A breach, broadcast operatives, regulatory agency, among others. He also calls for broadcasters' autonomy.
We're very optimistic that our views will be considered and reflected in the final code, which will guide the industry for the next 5 years or so. That's what we think. The last time we did a code 4 years ago, our views were reflected, but at the end of the day, some of them were chopped off. So let's hope this time around what we agree stays agreed. In forwarding our humble recommendations for review, it is important that we state our intention that we're taking a holistic and unbiased analysis of the broadcast industry. We're going digital. We're innate now. We consider the practical and economic effects of digitization on our businesses, especially in the light of the switchover from analog to digital, as well as review the challenges posed by the current regulations.
The host government, Kano State, in its submission, insists it's not comfortable with the broadcast style of some local radio stations. According to the Secretary to the State Government, Alhaji Usman Al-Aji, they breached the provisions of various sections of the code through unguarded comments.
Since inception, we ensured the freest environment for expression of public opinion in the media. However, broadcast stations, particularly radios, in their political programs, continue to operate in breach of the ethics of broadcast in Nigeria.
In the next few days, chief executives in the media will be looking at providing a lasting solution to challenges between broadcasters and the regulatory authority.
In part 2, after the break, students allegedly disrupt JAMB exams at Ladoke Akintala University of Ogbomoso, Oyo State. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.